Good morning, Seekers. Welcome to Tuesday. Thank you for being here. It showed 57 people were waiting, and now it just shows 8. That's so weird. Their numbers are weird. Okay, anyway. So if you're new here, please subscribe, thumbs up. If you'd like to become a member, links in the description. By the way, members, you have a new video. We did a live stream, and I know a lot of people couldn't join because of the time of day it is. But like I always say, I have a lot of things I got to get done today. The list is as long as my arm. But you're sorry you missed them. It's okay. You can go watch it on the replay. It's great news. It's a secret only the members know of. So we just I did an update and it's glorious. You see the tear? What's wrong? Oh, the story I'm about to cover? Yeah. Anyway, so as you guys know, I react very strongly. Very strongly. Because we need this side of the aisle on YouTube, right? And there's quite a few. They're called reaction channels. And the reason they react, it's not because we think we're better than anyone. We react to people who are taking advantage of other people, manipulating people, gaslighting people, grifting to take their money, right? And a lot of them are addicts. And that's a very common trait. And what an easy job to start a YouTube channel and just start using people. So you either don't have to work or you can stay home and enjoy your addiction. You know what I'm saying? So this is the reason. It's not because we think we're better than anyone else. It's because we are trying to make awareness of how people can hurt other people on the internet, on social media. Maybe it is time for a flip. Maybe it's time that these people have an awakening. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be enabled. I get there's people out there that really hurt and feel bad for people where they're like, hey, what's 20 bucks out of my pocket to get these people some food? Like Shani and Rev, right? There's been others that have gotten completely, disgustingly high or drunk and have hurt people that supported them, that cared about them. They just stepped on them, moved on to the next. And we've seen it. And it is disturbing and it is sad. And I'm just not an enabler. I don't enable people by giving them my money. I like to reward good behavior, right? And I would in a minute definitely reward good behavior. But I don't reward bad behavior. I don't reward people who feel like they're entitled. I don't reward people who have addictions and they refuse to get help. Because that's enabling. I feel when people hit rock bottom is when they make changes in their life. But I'm going to show you the other side of it. And maybe one person, just one person, this could be their light. Just maybe one person. I feel moved to do this. I feel it's important that we really see things for what they are. And we see the other side of those who get hurt. Okay, so I have been following this channel a long time. And this is Heather from The Needy Homesteader. Now this is Heather. And she has a husband, Matt. She has 2 kids, beautiful little kids. If you want to see them, there they are. Beautiful little kids. She has done many videos making beautiful homemade food. And oh my gosh, she is just the sweetest YouTuber I've ever watched. This woman has a soul like no other, the most beautiful soul. And I want you to pay attention to this story. I want anyone out there struggling with addiction to lean in. Phyllis been watching her forever. Yes, they live an hour away from me. So let's do this. I'm gonna let Heather tell her story.
Well, hello, YouTube. Literally, I'm going to name this video the hardest video I will ever make. And I had to pray for strength and clarity when I make this video. So bear with me. And I'm just going to apologize beforehand how I look. I know many of you have reached out to other people, other groups, other communities, you've noticed that I haven't been around, and that was by no choice of my own. So I am so sorry about that. I think in my, what have I been on YouTube now? I don't know. I can't think of how many years. It's been quite a few. I've never taken, I don't think, this long of a break. So I apologize for that. And
I'm stopping to do commentary for fair use. So she had been missing off YouTube for a bit, and people didn't know for like 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And people didn't know what was happening. And so she went live. Now, mind you, this was during COVID. So just pay attention.
I'm making this video now, not that I'm ready, because I don't honestly think I'll ever be ready. But I don't want you guys to worry. And so because I've just become aware of you guys worrying about me, I wanted to come on, and I don't want you guys worrying about me. So So I'm going to keep this as short and sweet as possible. And it's like totally wrong choice of words, but I don't want this to be a very long video. But I want to explain where I've been and some of the changes that will be taking place on the channel just for a little bit. And I hope that you all hang in there with me. That is my hope. So,
I understand, Phyllis. I do. She said, I got to dip out. I can't watch this video again. It's too heartbreaking. Okay, Phyllis, I totally understand. I totally understand. And unfortunately, this is reality in this world. And sometimes you have to be, it has to hit your soul. It has to hit your soul. There is no change that can occur in this world unless something hits your soul. And I get what you're saying. And I've got my box of Kleenex.
The night before Valentine's Day, and many people that follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you'll know this because I posted a picture of it. We took the kids, Mason and Mina, my 8-year-old son and my 5-year-old daughter, out for a Valentine's Day dinner to our favorite Chinese Thai restaurant. And it began to snow that night, and we left out of the restaurant. I don't remember what time, honestly, but it wasn't late. I think the restaurant closes at 8, so it wasn't very late. And when we left out of there and headed home, we were struck head on by a drunk driver. His the investigation has been completed now, and his blood or his alcohol level, I think it is, was I believe, a 0.354.
That is a very high blood alcohol count.
So technically, I don't even know how he was even able to drive, because he should have been close to alcohol poisoning and killing himself. But he managed to get in his truck and drive and hit us head on. The impact killed my husband instantly. That's what his autopsy shows. So I'm hoping that he didn't suffer. But Matt, for those of you who have loved
Matt was an amazing soul. He was a beautiful human being. And he loved his family. I know this is hard. I get it. But if we can wake up one person, just one person, by hitting them in the chest with a real story, not one people say, you could have done this, you could have done that, blah, blah, blah. This is a family that you're going to see with your own eyes of how addiction kills people, how it hurts innocent people, how it takes.
For those of you who love Matt, I'm so sorry.
Rest in peace, Matt. We loved you.
I know for many of you, Matt was one of your favorite parts of my videos when he would do his taste tests and his hot chews, and I still can't wrap my brain around life without him in it. He was such a pivotal part of my channel and me building my channel, because he was my biggest cheerleader, and he thought there wasn't anything that I couldn't do, and he was my life, he was my rock, he was my sword and my shield. And the heaviness and the burning of his loss is it's indescribable. My children were also injured. Mason, he endured 2 broken arms. His right arm, his bone came out of his skin. And so he was the more urgent of the 2. Mina also broke 1 arm, and from the shoulder down to the wrist. She also has a huge laceration on her forehead, and she also has a whiplash and a broken clavicle. So she is in a neck brace for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
5-year-old and 8-year-old children.
6 to 8 weeks. Hopefully I said that clear enough. They spent 3 days in the hospital. They are released now, and they are staying with my sister, who is taking great care of them and taking them to all of their appointments. And along with their brothers stayed in the hospital as their parent the entire time, so they were never alone.
And during this time, it was COVID. She was not able to hug or see her children the entire time. They couldn't even come visit her. Unbelievable.
but they are suffering greatly emotionally, and they have seen some grief counseling and many child psychologists, so they're receiving a lot of help. But they are suffering with a lot of anxiety, being afraid of being alone, afraid of the dark. They are afraid of the car. They are afraid that they're never going to see me again. So it is important that I get home to them very soon. I was critically injured, and
Let me tell you one thing. By the grace of God, she lived. She lived. She had 2 traumatic brain injuries.
my biggest injury, I was taken to 3 hospitals, one local hospital to stabilize me enough to transfer me to our trauma hospital in our area. And then once I was at the trauma hospital, I was too critically injured for them, for their care. So I was life flighted to the only hospital that could treat me, and that was the U of M in Ann Arbor.
U of M in Ann Arbor, Michigan is one of the most amazing hospitals in this entire state. And honestly, I believe they saved her life.
Ann Arbor. And where I stayed 3 days with CAT scans of my brain. I had a pretty significant brain bleed, and they didn't know if I would be brain dead or not. And so they had to watch me very closely on how my bleed went. I was told normally they would have drilled holes in my skull to relieve some of the pressure, but I was too critically injured and I would not have survived that procedure. So instead they just waited and continued with the CAT scans. And thankfully my brain bleed kind of slowed down and kind of controlled itself. And I was able to receive some surgeries that I needed. My right leg was completely crushed, and so there's nothing left of it. So we had to undergo 2 surgeries. One I know lasted 8 hours, and it is now completely replaced with rods and plates and screws and all of that. My other foot is broken, so I've got 2 broken feet, a reconstructed leg, the concussion, the brain bleed. I also have 2 broken arms, and are unable to use my hands and bear any weight from the elbow down. I also received 6 broken ribs. One of my ribs punctured my lung, collapsing it, my right lung. And I had to get a chest tube for that. And so I was in the ICU for 2 weeks, where I finally was able to graduate out of there. And many people shocked, many doctors shocked, because it seemed to be half of them didn't think I was going to make it.
Zupa shot. Heather and Matt and their 2 kids went out to a Valentine's Day dinner here, about an hour away from where I live, and it was not even 8 o'clock at night, and they were driving home, and a drunk driver hit them head on, killing her husband instantly. She was in critical condition, and her children sustained broken arms and collarbones, and she has a YouTube channel. She was the needy homesteader, okay? She's the needy homesteader. She has many videos. She's been on YouTube a long time. This happened in February 13th, 2021. And this is just a message to people out there that don't think about other people before they jump into a car after drinking or doing drugs. And this is a hard core, just hardcore. And if it can, and this is the way I feel about things. Like, I would think of, I'm not a drinker, but I know there is a lot of alcoholics. I know some personally that have jumped in a vehicle because they just feel they're invincible. And this is a hard look of how you can destroy other people's lives by doing stupid shit and not caring about anyone else but yourself. And I said, if this touches one person into rehab, then I've done my job for the day. Because this is a beautiful family. And she is just a beautiful soul. We are going to move on to the update because this was March 2nd, 2021. A year and a half ago.
Some of them thought I might, and those who did didn't know how long I would be in the ICU. I graduated down to the trauma floor, and there I awaited a couple of days to, my injuries are so unique, is what I've been told, because usually when you have an injury to your leg, well, you can use your hands, or if you have injuries to your hands, well, you can use your legs. I can't use any of my limbs. So I was too complex of a case for to receive any therapies there at the hospital. So I had to wait for a rehabilitation center, and I'm so sorry. My brain injury has really made words hard and my memory a little jumpy. So that's where I am now. I'm at a rehabilitation nursing facility, and I am receiving lots of therapies so that I can.
And that's my point. Tina B, she says, amen, Shelley. They should show DUI drivers videos like this so they can see how it really affects family. And here's my deal. I don't care if you kill yourself with alcohol and drugs. I really don't. Just don't get in a vehicle, because this is what can happen. And it happens more often, and it will never be put on the news in the extreme that it is, because it happens, I don't even know how many times a day, because of people who selfishly take their addiction and affect other people's lives. And even if you have issues with rage, right? You shouldn't be behind the wheel. My parents were head on with by a young person who was mad at his parents. So he just flew out of the subdivision into the road, hit a big truck, which spun around and hit my parents head on. A car, a vehicle, the road is shared by everyone. And I just feel like if you got issues, don't get behind the wheel of a vehicle. Like I said, I don't care if you kill yourself with addiction. Just don't take other people with you. She is such a beautiful soul. I'm going to show you the update. So that was March 2021. And so it's a year and a half. And yes, I have a big issue with people. I cried for this woman and her family. And her soul. So here's her update. I've been waiting for her update. And finally...
With FanDuel Casinos, play it again.
Finally, we got an update. Because Heather's been really going through it. And I absolutely love her. She is just so beautiful. So here's the update of what happened to the drunk driver. How is she getting along? February will be 2 years since this happened. She has not been on YouTube much because of her injuries and her traumatic brain injury. And she still is trying to strengthen the leg they had to rebuild. She's been trying to find her grace and her peace. And it's a long-term effect, forever. This will never be forgotten by this family, their friends, the YouTube community. And it's unbelievable how they treated the drunk driver who chose to get behind the wheel of a vehicle with an almost blood poisoning alcohol level. You got to hear this. This is the update. Year and a half later. She's just beautiful, is she not? This is a forever thing, yeah. And if you are crying about this, then you are an empathetic person. If you're sitting here watching this and you either tune out because you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, I mean, I understand tuning out because it's a punch to the chest. But this is what keeps us all in check, is reality. And the reality of what happens when people make decisions because they're selfish. Right? But if you're watching this and you're saying, "Oh, that'll never happen to me because I you know what? I wouldn't get behind the wheel that drunk." Really? Okay, because God knows this 40-year-old man that killed this woman's husband, almost killed her. Her children will probably have PTSD for the rest of their life when they get into a vehicle. It's going to be very triggering. And if you can sit here and say, "That'll never happen to me," you're the people I'm trying to reach out to. Because those of us crying, we couldn't even imagine being that selfish to harm an innocent family from selfish behavior. Carry on. And here she is telling us the update. Thank you, Heather.
How's it going, YouTube?
How are you doing, Heather?
Guys, I have been wanting to make you a video, and to be honest, I just struggle. I just struggle with content. I struggle with what I can share, what I feel comfortable sharing. What do I talk about? You know, I'm not really back into my kitchen yet full time. I'm still learning how to walk. I'm now learning to walk without a cane. And I had no idea how hard it was to retrain your brain. So I'm learning to, right now, try not to walk with a limp and trust my leg and strengthen my muscles that have been cut into twice. And
yeah, and as you watch this is a woman full of grace. This is what it means when you walk in the path of grace and forgiveness and love. Your heart knows no anger. Your heart knows no malice. So when people pretend they're Christians, I want you to pay attention to this woman, and I want you to see a true believer, okay? Because do not buy into these people that speak with the tongue of the devil, speaking of God, and then doing the opposite. This is grace right here.
muscles that have been atrophied, and my posture, and it takes a village. It takes a village. So I'm working really closely with my physical therapists. I actually have 4, and one is the main one, and he will just sit there and watch me walk and correct me, and walk again and correct me, and it is a process. So that's what I'm right now. That's where I am in my healing, is just learning how to walk again. I can walk, but I can't really carry anything. I'm not real stable. I'm still walking around with a cane on nights that are really tough on me. I'm still using my walker. So, but I'm improving every day. I have a long list of workouts that I do. Strength training, I'm now lifting 3 pounds on that leg and 4 pounds on my good leg, which really isn't my good leg. It's actually the leg that I needed a knee replacement on before the accident. So
And yes, you are correct. She is a testimony to those who like to drink and get high and drive. Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a reason in my mind why this is not considered an epidemic. Why this is not considered a big problem. I have a problem with that. But hopefully, Heather, you understand my reasoning for sharing your story. It's because it has touched me. I've never forgot about it. For 2 years now. For 2 years now. I have not forgot your story. And I felt it's necessary with what I see on YouTube and the things people do, get high and drive, and they drink and drive, and they just are so selfish. I'm hoping I can just reach one person that decides to stay home and not drive anywhere. I'm so sorry about your losses.
but I'm doing better. I'm doing better and I'm getting there. And my goal is to be walking unassisted, no more cane by the holidays. That's the goal that I've set myself for. So that's what I'm working towards. So I struggle sometimes with like coming on here because, I'm not canning, I'm not baking. I just made my first pot of chili on Sunday. So I'm just now getting back into my kitchen. And, I posted about my turkeys. So many of you love the turkeys. I love the turkeys.
If you didn't know, she's got turkeys, and she's got chickens, and people from YouTube and her family gathered around. And I think one woman from YouTube actually stayed at her house and took care of her livestock for her. So this is the wonderful thing about YouTube. And this is the part of YouTube that I love. I do not love the people that come on here and lie to you and manipulate you in order to gain financials from you so they don't have to work. And you know what I mean? This is the side of YouTube. Is the reason I'm here. It's for the people that help each other and gather together as communities and come together in crisis and in love. And Heather, it's not about your cooking. It's about your soul. We're attracted to your soul and you as a person. I don't care what you do. You could just sit there and have coffee time. You don't have to cook for your YouTube channel. You have a big community of support.
I'm so glad that many of you love the turkeys. So I had thought, maybe I should go out and film some of my chickens and my turkeys, which I probably would have done today if it wasn't raining. So, but I knew I wanted to touch base with you guys. I miss you guys so much. And I knew I wanted to talk about something with you guys. And I was actually going to pop on here and talk about pantry building. But I've been noticing that many of you have been asking me, what happened to the man who hit us and killed Matt and critically injured me, severely injured both our children, and what all transpired? Because I know I have not talked about that. And you guys, I don't talk a lot about the personal stuff anymore. For one, the internet can be a really scary place.
Yes.
And
Very true. Very true. People that don't want to hear a message because they're going through it or they're an addict, and we know they can become very dangerous and vengeful when things like this are put in their face. We do know that.
Learned the hard way when I was in the hospital and the sheriff's department arrived. And
can you believe this? Because of YouTube, she's grieving the loss of her husband. She can't hug her kids because it's COVID. They weren't even allowed to come to the hospital and see her. So they couldn't even get a hug from their mom to see that she was alive. And we got people fucking around on YouTube. She had to deal with the police in her hospital room. Are you kidding me?
I had to move my rooms for safety, and
They had to move her for her safety. Was this because of the drunk driving family? They didn't want your story on YouTube? I mean, think about this, people. I need you to think about this. This is what we deal with in the real world. Hold on, ads coming. Unbelievable. Even in this situation, people want someone to shut up.
so I don't share a lot of personal stuff anymore.
I don't
just
blame
feel
you.
comfortable. Second, it's really depressing. So for my own mental health, I try not to focus on it. I try to focus on today and what I have to do today, and healing every day and being in the Word every day. I do about 4 Bible studies a day. And so, that's where I am, just emotionally healing. But
It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time, Heather. But I think you and the kids, yeah, it's just, I have no words. I just have no words.
But I know that this is something I would want to know, and this is something that I want to share with you guys, because I know so many of you prayed for us, and this is kind of a big part of the story that I did not talk about, and I did not feel comfortable talking about it when we were in that courtroom phase. When we were awaiting sentencing, he did plead. First off, his name is Jared. I'm not going to release his last name, but I don't like to refer to him as that man or the guy, or for a little bit I called him Matt's killer when I was going through my angry phase.
Yes, that is a part of grief, by the way. Anger is a part of grief.
But he has a name, and he has a family, and his name is Jared. I believe Jared is 42. He's either 40, 41, 42. Never been married, has no children. So what he took from us, he will never really understand, because he was never a husband, he was never a father. So that was difficult for me to realize, to come to terms with. But thankfully, I have a really, really incredible grief therapist who's Christian based, and for the longest time, I met with her, a couple of times a week. Now I meet with her once a month just for maintenance, and she helped guide me through. She helped guide the children through, and she was a pivotal part. So I would say, if you are out there dealing with trauma, or a tragedy, grief, find yourself a really good grief therapist, because they're a game changer.
I am going to fast forward to the court, and we'll get there. Hold on.
Where I was having these pains in my arms and in my body, and
it is just, the recovery is horrifying.
And I never lost eye contact.
Okay, so here's where it is. Hold on.
So we were in that courtroom, and I asked if I could sit across from him instead of at the podium or in a chair. I could pick any place that I wanted. They let me pick any place I wanted. I didn't have to be anywhere near him. But I wanted to sit across from him. I wanted to sit close. And he had no problem with that. They had asked him, of course, and his legal team. And his family was there. And they called me up. I was like the first thing. I got to talk the first thing. And so I sat across from him at the table, the defense table. And I took a breath and I reached over and I held his hand. And I never lost eye contact. And to be honest with you, I talked to him for, I think people said 15 minutes, 20 minutes. My pastor said I didn't blink once. He said it was incredible. He's like, I don't know how you did it. I had, my pastor was there. A deacon from our church was there, Mike. A lady from church who's on the board, her name's Ruth. She used to drive me to church when I couldn't drive. They were all there from my church to support me. My dad was there, and my best friend was there. I had, like I said, I had God's army with me there. And I leaned in, and the Holy Spirit just spoke through me and gave him a message that this was his chance to pivot. This was his chance to change his life. And
can you imagine? I believe that I would be able to do that. Because when I heard her tell the story of how she sat across from him, because I know my father had the same grace. After all he went through, after all my father went through with a crushed leg, just coming home from having coffee with their friends, they got hit head on from a kid that was angry at his parents and used his vehicle as a weapon. My dad had the same grace. My dad had to have the pleural sac and around his lungs tapped because he was suffocating in fluid that was building up. His leg was crushed, had to be rebuilt. He was older, diabetic. The recovery process was so long and painful. And when it came time to court, my dad thanked God that he was alive and he was able to forgive. And I remember thinking, you're such an honorable human being. I'm so proud that you're my father, because forgiveness, even through tragedy, takes a special kind of person. And Heather's one of them.
And he would never understand what he took when he killed Matt. But God was giving him saving grace. And that we're all sinners. We're all broken. And that this was his chance to change his life and to make it so that my husband didn't die in vain.
Amen.
And the kids didn't lose their father for no reason. And how many lives he could help change or help save with his testimony if he chooses it.
I really hope you touched him. I really hope he makes the change he needs to make, Heather.
I was pretty much it in a nutshell. He wept. His eyes were bloodshot, shot. Like I could barely see his pupils. They were so red, and you could smell the alcohol in his pores.
During all this, when he got released on bond, he continued to go home and drink. And that's where her anger came from, because she didn't understand how they could let him leave on bond and go home and continue to drink. And this is where the system is broken. And this is where people get angry at the system, because you feel like you've lost everything. And there's nobody out there to set in place things to stop it from happening again. Yeah, and she sat across from him in court, held his hand, and could smell the alcohol through just leaving his pores. Can you imagine how angry anyone else would be to smell that and knowing that is what made you lose your husband?
And I continue to pray for him every day. My church continues to pray for him and his salvation. I can't control that. I can't control what Jared chooses to do from this point on. But I knew.
Souhaitez bâtir. Find.
Whoa, that scared me. Any addiction is terrible. It's just stay home, kill yourself at home, and don't get behind the wheel of a vehicle.
But I had to let it go. And I had to forgive him. I grieve every day. Every day. Every day. I think I will grieve every day for the rest of my life.
Yes, because God took another angel home. You know what I'm saying, Heather?
And I pray that he pivots.
We'll pray for him.
He was sentenced 5 to 15 years.
Can you believe it?
Had he not pled guilty, and there's charges. I honestly, you guys, I don't remember the official charges and all of that. I do have 2 major traumatic brain injuries, and I'm very thankful to be alive and remember who I am, even though I know my personality and such has changed a bit. But I couldn't focus on all that. It was too heavy for me to carry, quite honestly. And I had to focus on my kids, and that's, and getting better for them so that I can take care of them. But had he not pled, he was facing, I think it was 65 years in prison.
So I have a question. How, if you plead guilty, if those charges were so intense, because it was, it goes, with the system, it goes 1, 2, and then 4 for level. He's a level 2. So if the charges were that intense, how do you go, from 65 years, how do you go, if you plead guilty, to 5 to 10? I mean, that seems like such a long, 10 to 65 years is a long gap. I would think like half, 15 to 30. But 5 to 10? Michigan, you need to do better.
If it had gone to trial. I know the judge was very angry. She wishes she could have sentenced him to all 65. But she sentenced him to a minimum for the state of Michigan. He has to serve the minimum. So the minimum he'll serve is 5 years. The maximum he'll serve is 15, and that will all depend on if he chooses to rehabilitate himself. There are classes that I've been told that like he will have to take. He will face a parole.
What is mine saying? Sorry. Here, good for you for being sober 6 years, Mines. Everybody, put some hearts, red hearts in the chat for Heather and the hell she's been through, the loss of her soulmate, her best friend in the world, her husband, Matt. And let's put hearts in the chat for Mines, too. Good for you, Mines. You have one hell of a support system here. You are welcome to stay with us. We are always about exposing the bad and praying for people going through it. And never in a million years will I support an addict, but I will expose their lies and manipulations by reacting to the lies and the manipulation. So people aren't conned, people aren't gaslit, people aren't manipulated because they're pretty good about it. And they'll usually do it under the umbrella of religion because they like to appeal to the Christians because they know the Christians are the empaths of the world. And here, right before you, is one of the most beautiful souls who literally follows the light and was able to forgive the man who killed her husband, almost killed her, and severely crippled her children.
Board, and depending on if he meets his requirements, he'll be able to get out after 5 years. And if he doesn't, I know I've been told, accountability is big. He did not, by the way, take any accountability. He was sorry for.
This is the sad part right here. He pled guilty for the sentencing to be lower, but he took no accountability. That's very common in alcoholics that have no children. They don't know what sacrifice is. They don't understand unconditional love. He's not married, no children, 40-some years old, and he took no accountability.
For the accident, he was sorry that people got hurt. He was sorry that Matt died, but he got hurt too, and he just really saw it as an unfortunate accident.
Not as a choice. And this is common with alcoholics because they can't wrap their brain around their part in their pain. They just won't. They won't. It's a wet brain or pickled brain, people call it, where all that matters is their alcohol or their drugs.
He felt victimized by his friends who allowed him to drive drunk.
His friends were at fault. Now, you know how they point the finger at everyone around them and they take no accountability. This is part of the disease.
It was very much, blame everybody but yourself, which I think really angered the judge. I let all that go, though. I walked into that courtroom not...
I understand here for the mess. I get it. This is very hard for me to even do. But I feel like the way the world is today, we need to start looking at accountability. We need to start looking at not hiding the pain that people cause each other because it's too uncomfortable. We start recognizing when family members who may be addicts need help. They need family to step in. They need family and they need friends to say, don't you dare get in that vehicle. By actually looking at a story of a beautiful family who just went out to dinner and their whole lives have been changed because of, I would call it a selfish decision of an addict. This is reality.
Not focused on any of that. I went into that courtroom focused on God and His mercy and His grace.
Amen, Heather. You are a beautiful soul. Yes, I understand. And that's the message I wanted to get out. I'm not going to continue on, okay? This is the update, and this is how our system works. So it's up to us as a community, as a loving human beings, to not tiptoe around alcoholics and drug addicts just because they can be abusive and mean. They can hide under the umbrella of mental illness. They can hide under umbrellas of religion. And you can see the difference. Like Shani. Look what she's doing to Rev. Shani always hides under religion. But when you see this woman, can you see the difference between someone who walks in Christ and someone who was carried during her worst time? She was carried. You remember the Footprints poem, right? How come when I needed you most, Lord, I only saw one set of footprints? It's because then, child, that I carried you. Good for you, Mary. You've been sober since 1993. Yes, she is amazing. And this is not one story. There are probably millions of these stories. And the system's broke. And so is people. People are broke, okay? Yeah, they grew up in horrible situations or they just became horrible addicts. I don't know, but their pattern is always the same. Everything's everyone else's fault. They will slander, bully, manipulate, anyone that tries to slow them down or stop them or care about them because they don't want to hear it. But now it's become common on, my God, I even see it on TikTok, where they lie to their audience for money. They pretend like they're tarot card readers. $10 a read. I mean, we're watching this one girl, I can't remember her name, Smashy Cat, or I can't remember her name. She nods off from doing drugs. There's another girl that has a little boutique with makeup palettes. She does the same thing. And they're just getting money off of people on the internet. And all you're doing is enabling. I always say, if we could see you do a positive change in your life, get help yourself. There will be plenty of people there to support you because we always support people that have their aha moment or they move forward in life doing positive things for other people, for themselves. But we can't allow people to be duped or slandered or threatened or bullied because they don't want to be exposed. We know Shani and Rev won't go out and get food for themselves at a food pantry, or Rev could go literally next door and work at the gas station or the grocery store. That's not what they want. Well, that's not what Shani wants. So I just wanted to show you a true story. And yeah, it's a punch to the chest, but as much as it hurt you to hear it, feel it, Because an empath feels this right to the core. Trust that. Losing your husband and almost losing your kids, or your kids almost lost both their parents because somebody decided to get drunk and yuck it up and get in their vehicle because they didn't want to leave their vehicle and deal with the bullshit. And now you're going to sit in prison for 5 years? Will you come out changed or will you come out worse? Because it is a disease. They can sit every day in prison for 5 years, probably fermenting orange juice until they get out. But when they get out, they can't wait for that drink. I'm just saying. If you've got people in your family like this, it's time for tough love before another family like this loses everything. God-fearing, church-going people just went out to dinner as a family. It wasn't even 8 o'clock at night. It's never worth the risk. Exactly, CC. It's never worth the risk. And this is a fellow YouTuber who put out amazing content with amazing food, by the way. Her husband always came in and tasted her food. And it's just reality. And if it hurt you and upset you enough to change your mind about maybe driving ever because you won't forget this woman and her kids and what they've lost, God, I hope just one person. I hope it does good for one person because this is really hard to watch. And it was hard for me to do. This isn't about exposing somebody's tragedy. It's about getting the message out that this family deserves the prayers and the love and not to be forgotten. Anyway, that's the reason I did it. This just felt like I needed to do it. And so I did it. God bless you, Sherry. God bless you. It takes something to change the mind. Always, even in your own life. You will be tested. God will take you down to the bottom if he don't take you out. It is free will to go get rehab or don't. But please, if you're going to continue to kill yourself, do it at home. Don't involve anyone else, please. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve to be brought in to your addiction and your issues. I just hope it touches one person out there, one addict that said, I'm done. I don't want to be on this side. I want to be on this side. Prison, rehab, or death. That's your only options. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. You do not have control over this. You are not in charge. You will make one stupid decision that you may or may not get lucky enough that you don't hurt somebody else. But some people, they get away with it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times a lady, right? And there's going to be a time you don't. There's a lot of things that there needs to be what we consider epidemics. We already know there's a fentanyl epidemic right now. People are actually lacing things to harm our youth that are stupid. We already know our youth are stupid. So as parents, it is your job to monitor what your kids are doing and where they're doing it. It is. If you don't care enough about your kids and you think they're grown and they can just go party, they can end up like Kylie Rodney did. Because you just think your kid is an adult. No, they're not. They're stupid. All kids are stupid. They can peer pressure. They could have something laced given to them. I mean, right now they're doing a whole thing about these. It looks like candy, and it's fentanyl laced, and it's killing our youth right now. But obviously not enough to, put it out there as an awareness. But y'all need to be aware. I know they're doing it on purpose, Pat. I know they're doing it on purpose. They look like sweethearts. Yes, that's it. I mean, my kids are grown. Grown. Like, have a life, have a career, have things going on, very important to them, right? I still send this stuff to them. I'm like, you should buy this nail polish. If you're out having a beer and you go to the bathroom and come back, you dip your finger in it and fingernail polish turns a color, your drink is laced. I'm still doing that because I'm scared. I'm always scared, and I always say, well, knowledge is power. So I always send them all the newest things. Hey, watch out for this. You know what I mean? Yes, they're even putting the fentanyl in the weed, and we're talking at fatal amounts. I just say, don't do any of it. Be pure. You see life clearer. You get to live a fantastic life if something like that isn't holding you back. And please, for love of God, don't get in your vehicle. Walk, ride a bike, but do not get in your vehicle. Because you never know. It could be, they always say, things happen closest to home. It's true. Maybe you get more comfortable because you're closer to home, so you're not paying as much attention. That's what I think happens. And that's when bad things happen. And I'm just saying, you're out of milk, borrow some from the neighbor. Don't get in the car after smoking dope or drinking. Please don't. Just, you know what? You don't need the milk. Or walk. Get on a bike. But please, call a fucking Uber. Call Instacart. That's why they have all this. Uber Eats, Instacart. The problem is you go out, you drink with your friends, and you refuse to stay there. You go home. Then you blame your friends that you got behind the wheel, that they let you go home. That guy was a 42-year-old man, and that was his excuse. I know people who have cracked alcohol in their car because they have the shakes and the withdrawals. That doesn't mean, it means go get help. Oh my God. But no, the brain won't allow it. And it's sad. It's sickening and sad. Anyway, I gotta take my allergy meds, but I had the window open all morning and I'm just like, ah. My neighbor was mowing his lawn. It all came in. I'm so congested. But I didn't do this to upset anyone unless I'm upsetting the right people. Those that need to take a look in the mirror. Those that need to think about, if they even think about getting in their vehicle, what they may be doing to another family. I needed them to see that. It's like, remember when you were in driver's training and we got to see at 16 or 15 years old, we got to see those horrific videos? It's called shock therapy. You never forget that shit. I'm 57 years old, and I have never forgotten those videos I saw in driver's training. Now, I think they're called too graphic for children. But apparently, you can be identified as the kitty cat if you want, but you can't handle what can happen if you're not paying attention driving that weapon on four wheels. Out on the streets with other people who are just living their lives, not asking for any problems. And then you show up. So, yeah, that was quite the shock factor. Yeah, I never forgot those. Never forgot those videos. But anyway, I'm going to leave you on this because it is emotionally draining. And I think Heather needs to be heard. I think Heather needs prayers. You know what I'm saying? She'll continue to, the worst part about losing someone you love is when people quit calling and coming over. That's when it really hits. The dead silence. We're not going to forget about this, Heather. We're still here. Just needed you to know that. Anyway, if you go over to the Needy Homesteader and you go to the video that says the hardest story, remember the one when she's in the hospital, down there in the description is the P.O. box if you'd like to send anything to the family. Her P.O. box is there. Anyway, guys, it's called grace, right? And that's someone who walks with grace. Lean in, Shani and Rev. You losing $750,000 and then now grifting on the internet, making people feel, oh, I don't know what way they're supposed to feel about themselves. Oh, yeah, would you say non-Christians because they don't want to feed your addiction? No, sorry. You don't walk with Christ, because if you did, your life would be improving. And you would be thankful. But you're ungrateful. And you're evil. And it's time to show the difference. All right, guys. I love y'all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.